Smooth 98.1, love music, love life, 33 minutes past 6 a.m. on a lovely Monday morning. This is Smooth Breakfast. Yours truly, Ayokunmi Kikiriakum. Great to have you on this ride with me as we journey into the world of business on Business Express. And you can always be part of the conversation, as always. In fact, we love it when you join in on the conversation, when you share your thoughts with us on WhatsApp. The number is 0809 440 981. 0809 That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join us on the live stream on YouTube. Just head over to the YouTube app and search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos, or simply youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos. So simple, so very straightforward. Now, this morning, we're going to be looking at tomatoes. Like I mentioned this earlier, once or twice, probably wondering what I was talking about. But anyways, it looks like the prices of tomatoes are coming down. And a trader at K2 Market, speaking to Cable News, said a big basket of tomatoes is currently selling for about 55,000 to 60,000 naira, down from an average of about 150,000 naira a few months ago. Now, additionally, a crate of tomatoes that previously cost 55,000 naira is now being sold for 30,000 naira. A large basket of Rodo is now selling for an average of 25,000 naira compared to 55,000 naira at the peak of the price surge. They say it is the harvest. Well, let's find out more by speaking to our very special guest this morning in the person of Farmer Samson Ogbole. He's the team lead at Soilless Farm Lab. Very good evening to you, Farmer Samson. Great to have you on Business Express this morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolute pleasure to have you. So, first of all, let me begin from here. Now, Soilless Farm Lab. I saw that name, and the first thing that came to my mind was soilless, so no soil. But, anyways, what do you all do at Soilless Farm Lab to start with?
Okay, thank you very much. So at Soilless Farm Lab, we are tech enablers
Okay.
using climate smart methods for growing, that is using of greenhouse to grow plants as well as growing plants without the use of soil. The goal is to ensure year-round production of produce as opposed to the seasonal food production that we have.
Okay. Okay. That is interesting. Okay, but before we go on to talk about tomatoes, I mean, just looking at what you said, does this mean that soilless farming can be used to farm any type of crop? It doesn't matter what it is. Is that what that means?
Yes, soilless farming can be used for any kind of crop, but not every crop is financially, what is it called, viable to grow with soilless farming. So there are crops that are okay to grow that
Mhm.
you make good profit. There are some that you would grow and run at a loss.
Okay. Duly noted in that case. All right. Now, what do you make of the impact of the harvest on tomato prices? I mean, looking at what I mentioned earlier on, what do you make of it?
Yeah, it's simple. First, we need to remember that as a nation, we do seasonal based production, meaning there is a time everybody goes to the farm for most farmers, and there is a time everybody is harvesting. And it's only normal that when everybody is out of the farm, the price of food would go up. And that is what has happened. So it's not like there is a magic wand or anything happening that is extra special. It has been the norm from time immemorial for the Nigeria, what's it called, environment where this is. So when it is rainy season, tomatoes do not thrive well under the rain. So at the peak of rainy
Okay.
season, the price of tomatoes goes up. I'm sure for a couple of people, the tomato, what's it called, the rain has kind of relaxed a bit. Hence, you are seeing tomatoes outside. And once tomato comes out by default, you are then going to have a glut of tomatoes. So the price will start dropping. So we are still in our cycle of price goes up, price comes down, price goes up, price comes down. Just that it doesn't go down as it was the previous year, but it's
Right.
better than when it was cash.
Okay, interesting. Now, we all know that tomatoes are very, very perishable. What exactly can we do to better keep them fresh? Because you know how tomatoes are. I mean, just a couple of hours within a day or a day or two, they begin to spoil and rot and all that. Is there anything that can be done to keep them as fresh as possible for a longer period?
Yes, and first, let me start by correcting the notion that tomatoes will spoil within a day or two. The reason why we have a lot of tomatoes spoiling that fast is because they are not properly grown. A properly grown tomatoes with
Ah,
the right amount of water, a right amount of nutrient given at the right time should by default, without refrigerator or anything, spend 2 weeks minimum in your house on your shelf and nothing would
wow.
happen.
Two
So
weeks.
yes, minimum. So you realize that the first issue is the fact that a lot of people grow crops without understanding the science behind it. And that is where the first big issue is. So the question is, do they know how to grow the tomatoes right? Then on the flip side, number two is after you have gotten these tomatoes, we must get to the point where we remove seasonality in production. So, because you
Hmm.
realize, imagine if you are sure you will get tomatoes year round at the same price. The need to overbuy what you don't need would reduce drastically. Then number three is the stock on the tomato top when you get tomatoes. If you are not going to use your tomatoes early, then it is important that you leave that stock in. Most farmers do not
Okay.
know that. Leaving that stock in reduces the amount of ethylene that comes out from the tomatoes that get it ripe. Number four is for a farmer that knows these tomatoes may not be used on time, you should not harvest all your tomatoes red. You should harvest them 70% ripe. That way, they still have a bit of time to
Hmm.
spend before they get ripe. That way, even as a consumer, if I buy maybe a basket of tomatoes from the market and I am thinking I will use this thing for the next 3, 4 weeks, I separate the tomatoes such that what
Okay.
I want to use tomorrow, I just throw in one red tomatoes in between. That simple red tomatoes I throw in between get every other one red in less than 2 days because of the ethylene released by the red one. That is another method
Ah,
to preserve. Number four is you don't want to do that. Turn this thing to tomato paste in your house on your own. These are simple things you can do. That you can buy the plenty tomatoes, turn it to paste, and you can store that paste for up to 12 months using your regular jars, if properly done, sterilized and all for up to 12 months. You have your tomatoes in your
okay.
house that you can use for as long as you want it to stay. Then, of course, you don't want to do that. Do the traditional keeping inside the refrigerator. You can turn it into powder. So there are different ways to store these tomatoes to ensure the waste is reduced.
This is very, very interesting stuff. I mean, I never knew. Anyways, this is why you are the professional, Farmer Samson, giving us this knowledge. Now let's look at farmers in Nigeria because so many of them are subsistence farmers, growing food for their own survival. Now, can they take advantage of advanced tools to better improve their output?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. But again, like I always say, we need to put in mind that what makes them subsistence first and foremost is that they do not have a lot of capital to do big. So when we say do advanced tools, the question then becomes who funds it? So instead, the low-hanging fruit for these farmers would be, can there be a system where they are clustered first and foremost? Can they be put
Yeah.
into cluster where your one plot, two plots, one plot, two plots, the government or a private company comes in and says, let's put all of you together, then we provide you technology as a service. And this technology you are provided as a service, you pay for it at the end of harvest. That is easier than saying,
Hmm.
okay, a small local farmer, you are going to get a soil test done. You will pay for that. You are going to be taught how to do proper fertigation, how to pick the right kind of seeds. For most of them, as much as they would love to do these things, they do not have the funds to fund it, and they are not capping. They are not trying to discard technology or discard something better. It's just that they do not know how, they do not have the funds for it, or do not have the knowledge for it. But a third party can come in, put them in form of clusters. And with that, you can still get the advantage of a commercial farmer through smallholder farmers.
Hmm. Very interesting, Farmer Samson. Now, looking at what you said, farmers coming together in clusters, and all that. I mean, as they say, more hands make light work. But I mean, from your own personal experiences, do you know of any of these farmers coming together to try to make things work? That's on one hand. And then on the second hand, why is it so difficult to get this outside investment or third party investment into these spaces to make these things work?
All right, thank you. Yes, I know a lot of cluster farmers working together today. A lot of cluster farmers from the south to the north. I mean, in the north, they are way, way more. I know a company, I won't want to mention their name because since I didn't take permission to call their name. I know a
Right.
company working with about 55,000 smallholder farmers in clusters of I think 500, but they are into ginger, some are into garlic, different spices that they are growing. I know cluster farmers into vegetables and all of that. I know, for example, of a company called Green. I almost mentioned another name in Ogun State, also
It's okay.
growing, doing cluster-based farming. So yes, I know a whole lot of that. They exist, just that they are not enough. Very important. They exist, but they are not enough based on the number of farmers we have and the job that needs to be done. Now, having said that, the second part of the question, why are private investors not interested? You see, agriculture is risky. Primary production is risky. Very, very risky. And whomever is going to put money in there must have enough funds, must have enough funds to say, I want to sink, not I want to make profit with first. I want to sink. So that,
To start
because
with.
bringing in technology and all of that is not just about, oh, I am going to get the soil tested, the farmers together. You need to run a pilot. There needs to be a demonstration for these farmers to see what you are saying and believe. And that cycle could mean running one whole year cycle or one food crop cycle without profit, just for the farmers to believe. After they have believed, your next cycle does not mean you will make profit because now the farmers are doing trial and error with your guidance. It will take up to the third cycle before you start thinking of making anything out of the whole venture. And for
Got
a
it.
lot of investors, that is too risky on one hand. Number two is the cost of funds. It's very, very expensive because you realize that most farmers are basically gambling. They are not in business. So let me explain that for it to make sense. If I am into the selling of clothes, for example, the place I will buy my material will tell me the cost of the material. But the person I will sell the clothes to will not tell me the price of the cloth. I put in my price tag. But when you are a farmer, you need to buy your inputs. The input buyer tells you the price of the input, your agrochemicals, your seed, your land preparation, whatever you need to do, they tell you the price. When you get your products to the market at the end of the day, the market again wants to detect the price. Especially when you take your products to places like those at the 12th mile, they want to tell you the price. And the issue
Okay.
with that is, as a farmer, it means that when it comes to inputs, you collect price, you're a price taker. When it comes to selling your output, you are a price taker. That is not business, that is gambling. And you realize
Right.
as an
Right.
investor, you are not going to invest in a gamble. So yeah,
That
that's
is
where the
that is
issue is.
and definitely a lot needs to be done about that. That is very, very, very insightful stuff. Let me round up with a message here. This is Tayo from Ajab, who says, the gentleman from Okada has his facts right. I don't know if that means something to you, Farmer Samson, but anyways, but I
Yes,
think
I
the
studied from
incentive to
Ignatius
farm,
University Okada.
okay, so I guess Tayo knows you to a degree. All right, fantastic stuff. He further says, but I think the incentive to farm has been challenging over time due to subsistence and trespass on land by herders and banditry. Also, part of the issues that we have in the agricultural sector, the insecurity. Thank you for that message, Tayon. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, Farmer Samson Ogbole, the team
Thank
lead
you.
at Soilless Farm Lab. You have yourself a great Monday and a great week ahead.
You too.
All right. And thank you all for being a part of Business Express on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Smooth Breakfast will continue. There's more great music as we journey along on a Monday morning, 7:30. Quick reminder, we'll be getting into the headlines on Freshly Pressed.
Brought to you by Etisalat Transaction Solutions.